Good morning, everybody, and a happy Thursday morning to you. Another super long video, unbelievable. Listen, there's some stuff towards the end. You really don't want to miss it because it basically lays Harry's PR offensive out for everybody. So let's just jump in and get busy, shall we? Let's go. We are going to start off this morning with the Duchess of Gloucester. For those of you who don't know, she is Commandant-in-Chief of St. John's Ambulance Cymru. She officially opened the renovated Priory House in Cardiff, Wales. This occurred on September 4th. Let's move on to Princess Anne. She visited Everton Football at their new stadium called Hill Dickinson, and she was there to celebrate the 175th anniversary of the Liverpool Chamber of Commerce. And next, Princess Anne was at Tideway, London to celebrate the Thames Tideway, which is a model infrastructure project that came in on time at the Bazalgette embankment. Looking good. Next up, I have to discuss this. Apparently, Prince Andrew's association with Jeffrey Epstein is now creating an issue for King Charles because, after all, King Charles would like to keep his UK relationship with the US in good standing. And don't forget that President Trump is going to Windsor Castle on September 16th. Now, this particular story, I'm kind of giving it a grain of salt because the matter that's supposedly embarrassing Charles is the fact that Andrew courted an alleged spy. That came out how many months ago? So I'm not sure why that's such a big deal now. But he's not on the guest list anyway, and he wouldn't have been on the guest list because he's a non-working royal. So I'm not sure what this whole thing is about. Anyway, they're saying that Andrew will never again attempt to come to the United States for fear of arrest or prosecution. I don't believe that. I think he'll get the same golden ticket that Harry has. Moving on, this is very exciting for most of us. It's been announced that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is going to do some royal duties on Thursday, 2 different stops. And I, for one, am excited because this is one of my things about her. And we haven't seen her in a while. I'm happy to know she's out and about and doing what she loves. So I'm looking forward to these. This is occurring this coming Thursday, and you guys know I'll report on it. All right, let's keep going. Let's move on now to Prince William. He had a really big day on the 9th. He stepped out in London to visit Spiral Skills. This is a youth organization in Lambeth who have received funding through the Princess Homeward Fund to grow their work. Don't forget that he launched, Homewards back in 2023 to prove it's possible to end homelessness and make it rare, brief, and unrepeated. Now, Spiral Skills was founded in 2015. It works with local schools and youth organizations, and they provide early intervention, support, employability skills, and access to employment for people aged 14 to 25 years old. They also provide career coaching, employment opportunities, and workshops to help break the cycle of exclusion and unemployment for young people in the local area there. Now, after the visit to Spiral Skills, then William attended a workshop with Young Creators UK, which is an impact-led creative agency run and owned by underrepresented young people. And while he was there, William joined a film production workshop with young people and reunited with Homewards advocate Farrah Williams, who starred in the Princess Homewards documentary. And he went to hear how the organization has helped them to gain confidence and new skills. Don't forget that Homewards is focusing on 6 areas around the UK using scalable solutions to try to make a difference. Lambeth in South London, Bournemouth, I hope I'm saying that right, in Newport, Belfast, Aberdeen, and Sheffield. Each location is placing a focus on helping a specific group. For example, in Aberdeen, the spotlight is on single occupants and young people under the age of 25, where Lambeth is largely focusing on supporting lone parents that are in temporary accommodations. Northern Ireland is aimed at helping women who were experiencing chronic homelessness. Now, William also popped into a music studio during his visit to the Oasis Village in Tulse Hill, South London. This is something he did while he was hearing more about the work of Spiral Skills. So he gets in there, and there were young musicians taking part in a workshop. And William goes, it's brilliant. You guys have done a lot of practicing. Well done. That's not easy in front of everybody. That's really brilliant. You guys have amazing rhythm. It sounds fantastic. And, he goes, I can't read music, my biggest weakness. So the guy sits down and does the drums and then offers William to play the drums. William started laughing. I'm definitely not a drummer. I'm happy to see you do it. And if my youngest was here, he'd have a go because he's practicing at the moment. But I'd love to hear you do it. But thanks for asking. That would have been too much, I think. I love the fact that in the UK, the papers are completely ignoring Harry. It's all United States papers that are posting Harry, Harry, Harry. Now, William also, while he was in Lambeth, went to a property that's being turned into, living housing for homeless. I love it. All right, let's move on. All right. Oh, Samantha Markle. We know that she's back in court on the 9th because she was making a last-ditch attempt to revive her libel case. Don't forget that she sued Meghan back in 2022 over remarks that Meghan made in the Sussexes' interview with Oprah Winfrey and things she said in the Netflix docuseries. But in March, her case was dismissed. Now, this latest stage will take place in Jacksonville, Florida. And if Samantha wins, she's going to force Meghan into court for a trial, and Meghan will potentially have to pay damages. If she loses, however, there will be no higher court that she can take the case to, meaning that the entire case will just collapse. Now, Meghan is not expected in court this time. Samantha's attorney, Peter Tickton, said that, basically they're just trying to make Meghan responsible for the harm that she's caused people. We'll see what happens. This will be really interesting. Listen, I have to say, when you look at each statement one by one, they don't add up to a lot. But when you put them together, yeah, it's a big deal. Let's move on to Harry now. For those of you who don't know, while he was at the Well Child Award, he asked one of the kids, his name was Declan, he's 17 years old, and Harry goes, do you have any siblings? And the teenager looks at Harry and goes, yeah, I do. I have a younger brother. And Harry goes, does he drive you mad? And Declan looked at him and goes, no, we get on fine. And Harry goes, well, you know what? Siblings. He made a fool out of himself. He was trying, I'm not even going to go there. What an idiot. You're there to celebrate kids, not talk about your brother. So Harry finally gets to the event, but he was super late because he doesn't get the royal perk of the police escort, and there were strikes. So he finally gets there, but he was late. So here's this is what happened. Harry shows up in Nottingham, and he's in the city to visit Community Recording Studio. This occurs about an hour after William started his engagement. Now, the first thing I couldn't help but notice, was Harry's waving like there's a ton of people there. Well, let me tell you, there wasn't. Look right there. Those are the barriers that are erected to hold people back. There's a few people behind the car, but there is nobody there. Nobody. Now here he is from another angle. This time, at least, he opened his own car door. He gets out, and as you're looking, the people in front of him, that's just cameras. That's not really, that's just, well, a little bit of media followed him. Nobody else is there. Okay, so he gets there. He goes bounding up to these people like they're his best friends. They're clasping hands. They're shaking. He was greeted, after he got out of his Range Rover. And then he does this hugging thing. It's really, I don't know what it is. Now, apparently it was very sunshiny. And somebody yelled out, Harry, you brought the sunshine with you. Really? Okay. So anyway, the person he met was the chief executive officer of the CRS charity. Harry gave a thumbs up. He gave a grin. And then it got weirder because apparently one of the people that was standing there talking to him had an untied shoe, and Harry knelt down and acted like he was going to tie the guy's shoe, but he didn't. And then he just stood back up and laughed like, ha, 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 ha. Yeah, I don't see what's so funny, but whatever. See, this is part of my thing. This is supposed to be cheeky Harry. Isn't that just the funniest thing that he was going to tie the guy's shoe? Okay. I think Harry's high. I'm serious. There's something not right with this guy. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is because he turns around and smiles at the camera like, look at me, look at me. And then he walks in to the recording studio, and I want you to see this. Now, of course, people are on the internet going, oh, this place is so close to his heart because it was here in December of 2017, just days after announcing their engagement, that he brought his then fiancée, Meghan Markle, to meet everyday Britons during their first official joint royal duty. Like, are you kidding? Yeah, he was there once 8 years ago, and he hasn't been back since. No, I don't think this is one of his favorite places. What Harry is doing is trying to show that he can do royal work, that he still has the magic touch, that he's still a man of the people. That is exactly what this is. Look at him chatting with people. Look, he can still do the work. He's not being overrun by Meghan Markle. You guys get what this is? That's all that this is. This is massive PR push. And I've got some other stuff to show you in just a minute. Harry's group even made sure that there were representatives from children in need and ages 5 to 6 from a local primary school. When this event was over, Harry couldn't help himself. He saw the crowd across the street and he literally went running over to them. Now, I want you to know that even the newspapers pointed out, if you see the top line, there was a modest crowd. He doesn't bring the people in. Now, they take it from a certain angle. You see this angle? It looks like there's so many people there. You see that? But when you take it from other angles, you realize there's almost nobody there. Do you know the amount of crowds that William and Catherine draw compared to Harry? You guys have seen those before. Look at this. There's like nobody there. I mean, you can see there were photographers, there was working press, some of Harry's security, the people that travel around with him, but there was no more than a dozen members of the general public. So let's move on to what's really going on here. This is Harry's publicity blitz. He has now donated £1.1 million to this charity, Children in Need. There are so many charities in the United States. There's so much stuff they could have done with Archwell. There are wars going on all over the place, but no, he puts his money in this charity in the UK. Why did he do that? Do you guys know why he did that? Well, let me just tell you. First of all, Children in Need is a BBC charity dedicated to supporting disadvantaged children and young people. It was established in 1980. And for those of you who are wondering, it is his own money. It's not Archwell. That's what makes this so shocking. But then you come to realize that Catherine's involved with Children in Need. As a matter of fact, they asked her to do the opening spiel for this year's fundraiser. So this entire PR stunt is so transparent. Don't forget that African Parks is in a mess. Bale, he's lost. And now he's back in the UK. So happy to be back. And he's got these forced smiles and this excitement about being home. Home in the place that he said gave him so much anxiety he probably needed medication. And you've got Well Child, which is a fabulous charity, but it's basically just there for a PR opportunity for Harry. Harry shows up once a year, takes the pictures, and leaves. So he gets there, he picks up gifts for his kids, whatever money he can grab, and back he goes. I mean, he and Meghan have a lavish lifestyle, but they have no real jobs and they're running out of money. What do you guys think this is? Let's not forget some of the things that Harry has said, by the way, in the past. I think it's important. He said he doesn't like England very much. The people in this country, in the UK, are racist. Let's not forget about that freedom flight. We know what he said about being able to bring his wife and children back to the UK, where he said, I should have done this earlier when asked about leaving England, when he said that his father and his brother were trapped. They don't get to leave. Sometimes other people's words do better than my own, so I want to talk about what HRH Lady J said on Twitter. She's talking about Harry's charm offensive in the UK. Remember, James Holt is in the UK, and this is one of the reasons why he's there. Remember, we saw the Palace and the Sussex communication teams. Meredith Maines was in the UK mapping out this charm offensive. And so from late August through September 11th, this is his new, attempt to win back over the people. Prince Harry's latest trip to the UK is spun as charity, remembrance, and reconciliation. But when you strip away all the PR gloss, what you see is a textbook charm offensive, a deliberate strategy by his communications team to soften his image, generate sympathetic coverage, and reframe him as a figure of compassion and relevance in Britain. The timing isn't accidental. He arrived on the 8th, which is the 3rd anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's passing. He immediately secured headlines with a quote-unquote private visit to Windsor to lay a wreath at his grandmother's grave, except of course it wasn't private because it reached every single major outlet. And that single act guaranteed blanket coverage on the very day that the nation was remembering the Queen, ensuring that Harry's name was attached to the anniversary narrative. It almost mirrors the exact moment when Catherine, Duchess of Kent, passed away, and Harry quietly sent private messages that also managed to make the press. These are not accidents. They are carefully fed storylines. And from there, the pattern only sharpened. Harry attended the Well Child Award, this event that we know he's been associated with, where reports described him as warm, upbeat, and deeply moved by the children he met. And again, this charity works merit, but the coverage went beyond reporting his attendance. Instead of the charity and the children, it was all about how positive Harry feels, how he's in a really good headspace, how excited he is to be back in the UK. These are mood-setting phrases planted to suggest rehabilitation, that Harry is steady, content, and reclaiming his role as a compassionate public figure. Originally, this was a short trip for Well Child. His visit was then extended to 4 days, packed with additional stops, youth and community projects in Nottingham, charity visits, and more. And this matters because it parallels the diary of the working royals. William and Catherine have engagements this week, and so now does Harry. The optics suggest he's just as busy, just as relevant, and just as committed to service, despite no longer being a working royal. And layering all over this was the endless speculation about reconciliation with Charles and William. Before he even landed, stories were circulating a meeting with the king was possible and likely, and then it shifted to not off the table, then not impossible. And then, with no meeting confirmed, the press has moved the goalposts. They can't admit the narrative was spun for pure speculation, so they keep dangling the idea that a reunion might be possible. Both sides have dismissed talks of peace summit, clarifying that what exists is not reconciliation, but just simply routine communication. And meanwhile, the facts haven't shifted. They're using the buzzwords, excited, positive, fresh start. This is reputational management by the book. It's all about perception, but perception is not reality. The king remains at a distance. The brothers are not reconciling, and the waters between Harry and his family are, getting wider and wider. But here's the problem. A true charm offensive requires more than glossy coverage. It demands an attempt at amends, an apology, or at least the illusion of reflection and growth, something that shows some contrition. So the question is, will this work? Well, Harry's problem runs deeper than scandal. So for many Britons, he didn't just walk away. He abandoned his duty, cashed in on his grievances, and did so while his grandmother and grandfather were in their final days. And then with staggering tone deafness, he paid public tribute to the very grandmother he wounded. Because she wasn't just his grandmother, she was the nation's grandmother, the world's queen. And that's not a rift that heals with glossy charity photo ops or sentimental press pieces. It's a fracture of trust. So his team is gambling by leaning on charitable causes, wrapping him in the memory of the late queen, and dangling reconciliation like a carrot. And they think they can soften his image and coax back sympathy. But unfortunately, people are noticing when private moments miraculously make the headlines. People are getting sick of hearing about reconciliation that never leads to anything. And of course, we all know about Meghan. Harry can't reinsert himself into royal headlines without her shadow looming large. And by the way, charm offensives only work when the public wants to be charmed. So the uncomfortable truth for Harry is Britain is no longer willing. And the easy warmth he once enjoyed in both Britain and America has all but evaporated. And what remains is the faintest trace, hardly even a molecule, in a world that remembers the hurt more clearly than the charm. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Hit the like and the subscribe button and the bell for all notifications. Then go down into the description box where you'll find the link to my Twitter, my Gettr, my Rumble, my email, a link to my second channel. The recipes are pretty good. A link to my father's book, which is still up for sale on Amazon, as well as my Amazon wish list and a physical address. For those of you who have donated to my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.